Well, what an experience this has been. Having done some early jobs when the boat was first purchased back in March 2024, we recently took the boat out for 2 weeks for some major upgrades. And having listed them all out, we realised we've clocked up massive 85 jobs. Yeah, you heard that right, 85. So no wonder we're a little tired and somewhat stressed throughout the process. While we were on the hard for those 2 weeks and the ensuing 2 weeks afterwards, we actually did 55 of those jobs. And at one stage we had up to 5 different trades on the boat at the same time. Not ideal, and we were alerted to that by a couple of them, but you've got 2 weeks to get the jobs done, and with 55 of them needing to be done, we really didn't have much of a choice. So what are you going to do? The size of the jobs we did in the first 2 weeks ranged from some pesky little things that we wanted to get fixed through to some pretty major work, including, firstly, removing the old wrap to make way to sandblast the hull. And tell you what, that's a crazy messy job for the boys from Atlas Sandblasting. They can have it. Holy cow, there was dust and muddy old anti-foul absolutely everywhere. And that made way for the new wrap to be applied, letting ARGO come to life. The Atlas boys then recoated the hull with 2 coats of epoxy, 1 primer coat and 2 coats of anti-foul, which incidentally couldn't get wet, and the rain clouds were dark and foreboding the entire time. Plus they applied some shiny new prop speed to the props. I knew there was a reasonable chance that the engines had to be replaced when the boat was first purchased, and after having a few engine issues in the first few months, I made the decision to replace them both. So we craned the old ones out, cleaned up the engine bays, and that's a tight, sweaty job that I needed a small person to do. Thankfully, I had one on hand. And then we had to install the new ones. And when I say we, that was all done by Bruce and Sam from Marina, whose reputation precedes them, and for good reason. We're super happy with the outcome and their level of expertise, and it's so good to know that every time we turn those engines on, they start. The awesome electricians from SK Electrical were also on the boat. Kevin and the boys wired up the new engines and reworked some pretty dodgy wiring for a serious upgrade. It's hard not to geek out when you look at just how pretty it all looks, and frankly, the way that it should be versus what's in behind our breaker panel, which is a bit of a spaghetti mess. They added a new inverter, so now we can make daiquiris with the NutriBullet. With the help of Brett the Watermaker Man, they wired in our Rainman Watermaker so that we can turn salt water into drinking water at the flick of a switch. Whereas before, it was just portable, so it had to be dragged out into the cockpit along with a separate generator. You had to hook it all up, then spend an hour making water, and then you had to pack it all away again. So for us, it was a bit of a no-brainer to plumb that in, so that whenever we need to make water, we just flick the switch and off we go. And that's frankly a bit of a game changer for long-term sailing, making us pretty self-sufficient in that regard. They also supplied power for the installation of a 3 kilogram washing machine, so we can wash our manky fishing clothes. They wired in a new electric hot water system for us. It replaced the highly dodgy gas system we had before, which did have a minor explosion. A bit like leaving the gas on for too long before lighting the barbecue, only worse. That was enough to know that it absolutely had to come out. So we moved to an electric hot water system, which again At the push of a button, it takes very little time to heat up, and it's a lot safer. They wired up 2 new electric winches, which have already been well tested, taking me up the mast quite a few times when I was installing the camera system, and doing so by hand, especially by Kim, would have been more than a workout. They also added strip lighting in the engine bays, so now you can actually see what you're doing. And they rewired the solar panels and added a new solar controller, so now our 4 solar panels are split in half, with each controller servicing 2 panels. It's better that way in case there's any shading on the panels and for redundancy. We also got a new Victron GX Touch smart screen. That shows, amongst many other things, where the power is coming from and how it's distributed. Plus they also connected 4 fuel tank senders, so now we can see exactly how much fuel we have. Starboard side and forward of that, a small hole which was previously the dipstick hole, the only previous source of looking into the fuel tank or seeing how much fuel we had. And that's just what the electricians did. We also had 3 terrific and highly capable guys from Fiberglassing Australia who racked up a ton of shipwright jobs between them. They smashed out these jobs. They rebuilt our fiberglass foredeck with a reinforced new roller, which we'd accidentally broken during our trip to Gari a few months back. Now that's all fixed and much stronger than it was before. They installed the washing machine that the electricians had wired up, and that was a MacGyver job involving a lot of crawling around on the floor and in tight spaces. They took out the existing shelf and installed a mounting system to hold the machine on the hull. Kim also got in there and put all the felt back around the walls, and now we've got this amazing front-loading washing machine that looks like it was purpose-built for the space. They installed a saltwater deck wash for the front deck, so we can wash off the mud from the anchor and chain as it comes up. And there's another one in the cockpit so that we can use it to wash down all the fish we intend to catch, plus hot and cold fresh water for a fantastic deck shower off the duckboard. They installed 5 new through-hole fittings to cater for the new items, including getting the second toilet working again. And part of that included installing the new paddle wheel transducer, so we can have even more stats to play with, including water temperature, true wind direction, and speed of the current, which we've never really needed, but it's good to have. And while they were at it, they epoxied up the old transducer hole in the shower bilge. They also repaired a large chip that we had in the underside of the hull, which we had no idea was there until we brought her out of the water. But with the work they did, now you'd never know it was there. And then we got into the action and cleaned a ton of things back to shiny new. We replaced the aquamarine Laminex from the 1980s with a stunning charcoal grey that now actually makes the aqua couch look less of an eyesore. It's still a bit bright, but it kind of looks good now. We stained the cockpit doors and entry step, gave the carpet and couch a really good clean. Kim reckons this will be done by someone else next time. And I got up the mast and attached new CCTV cameras around the boat, while Kim got her Tim the Toolman on and worked up some new fly screens. We know it's not the end of it, boat jobs just seem to go on forever. But this is now the end of the really big ticket items, including the earlier jobs of installing a new autopilot, new wind instrument, a second larger plotter, installing the AIS, new starter batteries, 100 metres of anchor chain with a new windlass and chain counter, a new stereo, a new radar, and we purchased some great headsets, which are commonly called marriage savers for a very good reason, so we don't have to shout at one another from each end of the boat. And it feels great to have her in a state that makes us feel safer and, frankly, a lot more comfortable for when we sail off into the sunset. So we're seriously glad to have all of that work and stress behind us. It's been a really interesting journey to go through the sale of my property, finding a new place to live that would house a boat, although at the time I didn't own one, and then searching for the right boat, and then bringing that boat up to speed to the point where it is now, where she is seaworthy, she's safe, and she's reliable. A huge thanks and a big shout out to all of the folks we worked with to make this a reality.